We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Doing it.
OMG in the morning.
As the man who killed the girl, who stabbed she up, went to her with 2 knives, stabbed her in her neck. And no accused. There's no accused with that. Then he bawling, going into the courtroom, bawling. No damn accused. How, and then family member, some lady, I don't know if it's his mother or his aunt or whatever, stood up outside telling him, don't cry. YPI, don't cry. What's wrong with us? What the hell is wrong with us? Huh?
Don't cry, just dry your eye.
What the hell is wrong with what is wrong with us?
Bad man, any word on who's defending?
Yes. My buddy Ronnie Maxwell was listening this morning. Morning, Ronnie. He's not a politician, but bawling, going into the courtroom. You drive. Yeah. You drove from AIA to park. Before we get to there, baby doll, somebody call you, some neighbor call you and tell you that your ex-woman, some man dropped you off. Some neighbor call you while you're at your work at AIA and tell you that your ex-woman got a ride with a man. You don't know who the man is. A man dropped her and your child off and a cousin. You pick up the phone and you call some partner and say, come get me, come carry me up Park Hill. From Argyle to Park Hill, you have 2 knives on you. And you go and pelt and stabs, kick. The woman have your child in her hands. Your child, your baby in her hands. And you pelting kicks, knock her over a bank and run down and letting go stabs at her all in her neck. Kill her instantly. And then you're going into the courtroom, walking into the courthouse and bawling. Baby dog, you gotta help me this morning. I gotta.
I won't.
Bawling. Really? You bawling? For what? You're bawling because you understand what's going to happen to you? The consequences? Well, I hope when you go to prison, you get a lot of love making made to you. Bawling. I couldn't believe when I saw that video yesterday. I couldn't believe it.
You think he's actually remorseful?
Remorseful? I just think that he's bawling now because he realized I'm going into the courthouse. Not a remorse.
Because of what will happen to him, not necessarily because he feels bad for what he did.
He feels bad because of what is going to happen to him. Not because you cannot tell me that you will now feel bad because of what you did. You had enough time to pick up your phone, to call a partner and say, yo, come carry me Park Hill. From your job at AIA to carry you Park Hill, you pick up 2 knives, 1 in each pocket. Drove all the way to Park Hill. Start kicking her up, kick her down a bank with your child, your baby in the girl hand. You jump over the bank and start pelting stabs at her all in her neck and thing and kill her instantly. And that is what, come on. No. It's crazy.
So, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just wondering. You said he picked up knives on the way.
Well, he had knives. He had 2 knives on him, according to the
Just wondering if the person who was driving
facilitated him.
Well, I mean, he picked up 2 knives, I'm sure he would have been saying stuff on his way, fuming,
Yes,
being in
yes.
his rage.
To the person who was driving him up.
person who was driving him. So
Yes.
There's something more vexed
trying to
now.
understand.
Because the person not driving him, just as guilty as he too.
I
And the
think
and the
person
commerce neighbor who called him,
Yeah.
not knowing that is the girl pastor, and there's a video on.
Yeah,
have you seen the
pastor,
video
no.
with the pastor in church? The girl just gave her life and all of that. The same pastor. Good morning. Good morning. I know I'm not doing something.
And the thing is, it wasn't her alone that got the ride.
No, it was
So
his
why
baby.
not mention that there
Hello?
were other people?
Yes, his baby. Okay, I think they call. You need to call back. I know who's calling. His baby and the girl cousin.
Right.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Bing. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning, good morning.
I'm going to state my name. My name is Alexis John.
Morning, Alexis.
Morning.
All is well?
All is well.
Okay, a reason why I'm calling, right? I've been thinking for the last couple of days, and I'm not usually a person who will call on a radio station to express my views on a subject about something that is happening in our society. But I think what is going on right now around the globe in relation to the coronavirus, I just want to say something quickly, Bing, and thank you for permitting me. I don't think we in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are that concerned about the economic fallout that this virus is creating right now. I don't think we are. You know, we are focused more on the health issues, and I do understand that. But as you can see, Bing, across the globe, businesses are losing money. For example, in fact, I read an article, I think it was yesterday, in the Barbados Today, where the hotel industry has already lost $1.2 million. That's Barbados. Over 2,800 rooms has been cancelled. And that's grave for any economy. And I'm saying to the authorities that we have to seriously start thinking about the huge economic fallout that, because we think, you know, we keep saying, oh, we have to put things in place to prevent the virus from coming here. But not knowing that our small economy is so dependent, and in fact tourism play is a huge sector for us to earn that foreign dollar. So the hotels, for example, in St. Vincent, the Beach Coleman, even Canawan, Beckway, Blue Lagoon, you name them. Nobody is going to come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What is going to happen to all these small hotels? Easterval is around the corner. Nobody, where we earn a lot of money. Inter-regional travel. I don't think we have really sit down and realized, wow, this thing is going to hit us hard. Every single business will be affected. I am solely dependent on events. That's my only source of income, right?
Yes.
They are saying the tagline these days is to avoid large gatherings. Carnival is right around the corner. In the event that this virus comes here, one or two, in fact, we already start panicking. How am I going to earn $1? I have the bank to pay. These are things that we need to have a conversation around. And being I read a lot. I read yesterday the opposition leader in Jamaica realized, listen, we have to come together. In fact, in Jamaica, there's a national call to come together, to put, we have to start thinking about putting things in place. So, ECCB, University of the West Indies, everybody have to start thinking, how are we going to cope? How are we going to cope?
Well, we've got the leader of the opposition coming in with us this morning at 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
So
I think right now, no disrespect to them, they just need to put on that village meeting that they're having, and we have to come together. And this my call is really to people. There has to be a national call to come together, because listen, everybody's going to get hit. How are businesses going to continue running their ads on Boo if they're not earning money?
well, I'm gonna play you something now to show you how close to home this thing has reached now. Before I get into the news, which is a bit late now, Alexis. But that's a good call you've made there. We're gonna touch on it now. And when the leader of the opposition gets in at 8 o'clock this morning, I'm going to raise it with him as well.
And before I go quickly, Barbados, everybody's coming together. The opposition is a national effort.
Yes.
Why? Because the economic fallout is great.
Everybody's going to be hit by this. Everybody.
Exactly. And we're talking about health and health. We are not studying the economic fallout, and it is grave. It's going to be dim. Some people are living from paycheck to paycheck. How are they going to pay VINLEC? How are they going to pay CWSA? We have to start thinking seriously about that.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate this call. Yesterday we heard that in Jamaica it is now the virus popped up its head in Jamaica yesterday. Coronavirus. But let me play you something that will shock you even more now. Listen to this in Alberta, Canada.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. As Tom mentioned, and as you know, I am Dr. Dina Hinshaw, Chief Medical Officer of Health for Alberta. Today I am announcing that 7 new cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed in our province. This brings the total number of confirmed cases in Alberta to 14. A breakdown of each case has been provided in the news release being sent out today. 3 of the new cases are from the Edmonton zone, while the other 4 new cases are from the Calgary zone. They involve a range of ages and travel locations outside of Canada. This includes travelers returning from France, the Netherlands, Egypt, Iran, Taiwan, Germany, Malaysia, Trinidad and Tobago, Panama, the Philippines, and the United States. Many travelers visited more than one country during their trip. One of the individuals was on the same MS Braemar cruise ship in the Caribbean as a case announced yesterday. It is important to note that while this is a list of the countries where these individuals traveled, it is too early to know where each person contracted the virus. All of the new cases are now recovering in isolation at home. As with all previous cases, health officials are reaching out to anyone who may have been in close contact with these cases. I also want to inform you that one of the previously confirmed cases is now receiving treatment in hospital. The individual who is receiving treatment is someone with a pre-existing chronic health condition. I know that any rise in case numbers may feel alarming to some people. Many Albertans are wondering what this means for them and if cases will continue to rise. I want to assure Albertans that all of these cases are travel-related. This means that our existing recommendations are particularly important. I want to remind all Albertans that if you are returning from outside of Canada, you should closely monitor your health for 14 days.
So, someone who went from Trinidad to Canada tested positive for COVID-19, the coronavirus, from Trinidad. And she mentioned cruise ship. I want to read something to you now before, and I know we're running a bit late for the news, but this is important. Cruise ship, the cruise ship business. Let me read this to you quickly. Hang on, stay with me this morning, all right? Now, we know that cruise ship that comes to St. Vincent de Paul. Get this. Yesterday, last night, I think it was, last night, the Grenada Tourism Authority has been advised by local cruise officials that the Idea Pearl, carrying 3,113 passengers, which was scheduled to call on Grenada this morning, Wednesday morning, will no longer board. This is in accordance with the Importation Transmission Watch, which the destination is observing, and the updated travel advisory issued by the Government of Grenada Ministry of Health today, which was yesterday, March 10th. So, we know that that boat normally come up. Will we see that boat in Port Kingston this morning? Or later today? I hope not.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Doing it.
OMG in the morning. Just got reclaimed. OMG in the morning.
And it's that time of the morning where we get to the middle of the weeks. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Neil, good morning.
She just stepped out of the studio, but Diego is here.
Morning, Diego.
Morning. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right, man.
Thing I
That's
noticed
it.
your
That's praise.
program is very crowded this morning, so keep me disciplined, please.
Will do.
Yes. So I'll be brief. And I want to touch briefly on the two items you're discussing this morning. Domestic violence. I'll be very brief on that. And to say that the insert you played this morning, I recognize it as a report from the news from the local TV station.
Yes.
And I'm saying that with that news report, we don't need any more marches. That report says so much that if that does not catapult our nation into action, I don't know which march is going to do that. By the way, did any of you guys participate in the march?
I was not physically there, but I had a link in which I was broadcasting it on my page. Dr. Richards was there, so he represented us. Grant was there as well too. And then Diego was there as well. But I had to do my usual afternoon duties with my kids and all of that, so I could not have gone.
And basically, I would like to hear the solutions now, Dr. Richards. And I'm not being antagonistic with Dr. Richards. I am genuinely concerned with the way we are approaching violence. Not just domestic violence, but violence in our country. And based on your discussion this morning, it brought out the point that I am trying to make. That if we can teach our children to manage their emotions better, we'll solve a lot of the problems we have in our country. Because what I heard you talking about this morning is a man who got enraged on Saturday. His anger, as usual, got the better of him. Did not manage it, and went on, committed the act based on information that's in the public. And then what you saw yesterday now is another emotion getting the better of him, emotion of fear that we use all the time to control our children, and we want to use it to control our adults. So I look forward to Dr. Richards, after spending so much time yesterday talking about the march and explaining the purpose of the march, that he would come back going forward and give us some of the solution. My solution is for us to have better parenting and generally teaching our people to control our emotions better. With respect to the coronavirus thing, did anybody attend the session yesterday from the radio station?
Our representative was not able to make it yesterday at the last minute. Good morning, Mr. Weeks.
Hi, Denise. Good morning. Okay.
But we will get information from it.
Okay. Because I think that was a call to action to get our media workers, and I think there was an emphasis on those in the broadcast media yesterday, in terms of how we report and how we deal with this matter. And as somebody indicated, we can learn a lot from what is taking place around us, in Barbados, in Jamaica. We can learn a lot from what is taking place. Incidentally, I follow the media in Jamaica a lot. I listen to a number of the talk shows. So I have a good understanding of what is taking place, and I am suggesting that we can also learn. We can learn generally from what is taking place.
And what about that insert we played this morning from Toronto, where someone popped up on a flight from Trinidad who's been tested and is positive?
I before you play the tape, I heard somebody commented on that issue, and my understanding is that the person was sent back from Trinidad. I don't know. But again, it demonstrates that's a point that you've been making, Bing, and that I probably may not have said it. That we can close down the seaport and we can say nobody come here on cruise ship. Jamaica has done that. Jamaica has been very vigilant. And by the way, Jamaica has allowed ships to land where there were individuals on the ship that were not allowed to leave the ship. So they have been managing their ports. They have been vigilant with their cruise ship, and I think they're following the same general guidelines that we are following. But they have a case. The case did not come by sea. It did not come from a cruise ship, and it simply goes to reinforce the point that you have been making, Bing, that it's not only the cruise ship. We have to be careful with what happens at our airport. And finally, I will end with this. What some people may think it's an outrageous statement. We can solve this problem, if the world can take action to solve the problem. As your caller said this morning, it is going to be an expensive venture to do so. But countries are doing it individually. Italy has done it. If the world closed down for 14 to 15 days, we would have the end of the problem. The virus is like a chain letter, folks. It goes around because somebody passes it on. If we put a break in that chain, as happens in the chain letter when some people refuse to send it on, that is the biggest thing that can solve the problem.
So, Mr. Weeks, in your opinion, the solution is stop everything, shut down the entire world for 14 to 15 days, and you think that we will be able to contain or get rid of it?
That is one solution. But I don't think that is a feasible one.
I was just about to ask how feasible you think that is.
It's not a feasible one. But that is one solution that we almost can guarantee will work. So what we have to do locally, we can't do it for the world. We have to take similar steps here. And the large gatherings that your caller fear that we would have to put an end to, definitely would have to put an end to.
So what do you think about the fact that we have, Easter coming up, and usually there are a lot of persons traveling to St. Vincent for Easter? There are a lot of festivities that take place in Beckway. What do you think we should do about that?
We need to take individual action to protect ourselves, avoid large gatherings. If you do not get into contact with somebody who has the virus, you will not get it. Take individual action. Do not panic. Take individual action. Get the information. Protect yourself.
That being said, Mr. Weeks, I read a story from Grenada this morning, which, let me put it back up again, in which the Grenada Tourism Authority, GTA, has been advised by a local cruise official that the Adia Pearl, which comes to St. Vincent, carrying 3,100 passengers, which was scheduled to call in Grenada this morning, they have stopped that boat from coming. And they said this is in accordance with the Importation Transmission Watch, which the destination Grenada is observing. And updated travel advisory issued by the government of Grenada. So Grenada has taken a hands-on approach on this thing. They've allocated $3 million to test kits and other training material, and now they've moved where the cruise ship business are concerned. I don't know if they have specific information with this cruise, with this ship or not, but they have said that this morning this ship was scheduled to land and it will not be landing. Do you think that this ship will come to St. Vincent, which normally happens?
I don't know, Bing. The authorities would have to answer that, and let's wait and see. By the way, that didn't say Grenada prevented the ship from coming, That news release that you just read didn't say Grenada.
What did it say?
It said the ship agent, the cruise people said the ship is not coming. So based on what they expect, it seemed to me based on the treatment that they expect to get in Grenada, that they decided that they were not good. In the same way that the Carnival Cruise Line has indicated that they're not going to Jamaica.
Well, it will be very interesting to see if that ship turns up today, tonight, or tomorrow morning in St. Vincent.
We'll see.
And if that happens, what would you say?
Well, it depends on the circumstances. You just said you don't know why the ship is not going to Grenada. I believe it is because of the treatment that they expect their passengers would get in Grenada.
But what sort of treatment can they anticipate that's going to be so bad
Caution.
that they would choose to skip out a whole country
Daniel,
out of their routes?
if our taxi drivers decide to protect themselves by not going out to carry tourists, I think it would make sense the tourist boat come to St. Vincent.
I have persons, I know a lot of, I lived in Grenada for a while, and from my contacts there, nobody is heading in that type of direction. Like, people aren't going to work, taxi drivers aren't. There's nothing like that on ground going on over there that I can say is taking place. So, I mean, I'm not there, but from what I understand, that's not how it's going at all. They're being cautious. They're trying to secure their borders, but it's not a situation where if a tourist shows up, people going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe it's you come off a cruise ship and running from people, and it's not that environment over there.
Well, we had some of that in other destinations. We had some of that in Jamaica. The mayor for one of the cities had to go to the market at one point in time to calm the vendors and customers there.
Okay. Well, we are at that time where we got to go. Thank you very much.
Yes, Bing. The word is individual. Take individual action to protect yourself.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. We got a minute to 8 o'clock. Did I say 9 o'clock? My apologies. We got a minute to 8 o'clock. That was Mr. Weeks. At 8 o'clock, we scheduled to have a paid program, 8 to 8:30 by the New Democratic Party. The topics that they're going to be dealing with this morning is financial. I think it might be the overdraft issue, and they said that they'll be looking at the coronavirus, COVID-19 virus, and its impact on St. Vincent. What their solution? The caller this morning, Alexis, who identified himself, he said that he is of the opinion that the opposition and the government should come together and look at this issue. He went as far as saying that he's of the opinion that the opposition should shut down these meetings, these community meetings. What do you say? Let's hear from you this morning, especially when the leader of the opposition, Dr. Friday, gets in. All right? Tell you what, let's go. What time is it? It's 8 o'clock in SVG and the Eastern Caribbean. Here we go.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. OMG in the morning.
The following is a paid political segment by the New Democratic Party.
I don't like how Doc look like if he's coming to the doctor's office, and therefore he's a bit
I don't
worried.
think so. I don't get that vibe at all.
Bing, you see I'm all dressed up?
You all dressed up, yes.
Yes. And you think I dress up for you?
Well, it's not for me. but so it's not that you're a bit nervous because you're coming in here and all that. It's not that.
No, not at all. Well, here's the thing. I have another function later on.
Okay.
So, playing the part. But this is it's a new venture for us here. You have been very generous in the past. You have gotten us onto your program, and you have, given us a chance to explain what we're about as a party. You've grilled us very hard sometimes because that is your job as a journalist, and I have put up with it and hope pass the test.
So you decide to spend some money with us
Well,
now?
so here is
You
the
decide to
thing.
spend some money now?
No, we are trying to reach as many Vincentians as possible because it is essential that people understand what we're about.
Yes.
If we're asking them to support us.
Yes.
We have swing voters, some of them in the studio.
Uh-huh.
Who may
I mean,
be-
some of them. I know some of them. Come on, Doc. Come on.
I'm hopefully not referring to you. So what we've been doing really, this has been our modus operandi.
Correct. Okay, good.
We've
Great.
been going out, as you know, when I became the leader of the party. We've been doing it before, but we sort of accelerated the process. We went out and meet people all over the country. We did what we call walkabouts for the entire first year and a half. We've been going to communities, usually on Friday evenings, but sometimes twice a week, and just meet people, talk to them, 2-3 hours walking in the communities, sitting and talking to people. And then we also now have our village meetings, which is a similar thing, but larger groups, but they are still small settings. We've had town hall meetings. And the point was really to go to meet people so that they understand what we're about. They get a little comfortable with us because they get to meet us personally. With that personal touch, St. Vincent is small enough as a politician, you can still have that personal touch with the people. And I think it's important that people understand that when you are seeking to represent them, that you come to find out from them what you want them to represent. You want you to represent them about. You can't assume you know everything.
Right.
Some people do that, but I don't. I go and I meet people and I try to understand from them what they want us to represent them about.
This morning, interestingly, we had a caller very early this morning, and he said that COVID-19, which is the thing that's
Yes.
on everyone's mind
Everybody's
right now,
mind, yeah.
that he's of the opinion, one, that the opposition should get together with the government
Yes.
and try to work on something with regards to an economic plan for businesses, especially small businesses, who's going to be hit hard.
Yes.
And two, that he's of the opinion that the opposition should shut down these community meetings. What say you?
Well, here's the thing. I do think that this is a national issue, that there shouldn't be any partisan divide on the issue. When we, in public, urge the government to do certain things and raise the issue as one of national concern, it's not as a critique of government necessarily. It is really raising the debate to a level of urgency that action is taken. And one of the things that has been the most problematic with the way in which the coronavirus, COVID-19, has been handled, not just here, but elsewhere, it's the lack of information and the scarcity of information to match the level of public concern. I think that's what people want more than anything else. A week and a half or so ago when Prime Minister Motley had the press conference as the chairman of CARICOM, and she spoke about that you can't really have a vacuum because their social media being what it is floods the space with information which may not be necessarily accurate, creates public hysteria, and the situation gets out of control. So what we've been saying is that there must be regular updates on the part of government. Treat this as though sometimes it's like a hurricane. We don't wait until the hurricane is past and so on, and you tell people, well, this is what happened. What we do is we update constantly so that people feel a level of comfort.
Do you feel that is being done now?
No, I don't think it is, and I would like to see more
That's
of
what
it
you're saying,
being done. Yeah, I'm the caller who said yes, we should work together and do this. Absolutely, this is a national issue. It is one that is in my lifetime I have never seen anything have this kind of impact globally. When you hear, in Italy, you shut down communities. In New York, they're shutting down communities. That I've never heard of that before. You've had an earthquake in some location. Those areas are severely affected. We've had concerns about outbreaks in the past, SARS and Ebola virus and so on, but those have been regional and relatively contained. This is spreading very rapidly. I've heard now there's a case in Jamaica. There are cases in St. Martin. It's in the Caribbean, and the prediction is that it will cover the entire globe.
And his concern about your community meetings, and he's in the interest of what is happening now, that you should pull back on your community meetings for now and focus on what is important?
Well,
what
it
do you
is
feel
it is it is something that it's advice that we will take in consideration, because we have to adjust as we go along. We have to take measures as we go along, and the meetings that are relatively small. In some jurisdictions, some countries, they have imposed bans on meetings of up to a certain size, 1,000 in some locations. I heard now in one, they said 250. They're talking about a case in I think it was in Boston, where a tech company, a biotech company of all things, had a meeting. One person in that meeting apparently was infected, and now 70 cases. So it is a relevant concern, and it's something that we will take under advisement, definitely.
What recommendations do you have for the government besides the flow of information? Do you have, as a political party in opposition, if you were in office, how would you be handling this right now?
Well, the information is key. That is the paramount thing, because what is spreading, I think there's a senior politician, I remember exactly who they said it, but the part of the problem with this epidemic is that the fear itself is really what is causing a lot of the problems among people. You're hearing people are, not wanting to interact with certain people because they presume, and we don't want to have this kind of presumption. We have to take the necessary precautions. We have to get to a stage where we can do our own testing here. That is critical. We must be able to do testing here. In Dominica, I'm told that they have testing. They can do the testing there. We say, okay, we can send our stuff to Trinidad and so on. What happens if there's a couple of cases in Trinidad? Who's going to get priority? They have 1,000 people to test. Are they going to say, well, let's test the 200 samples from St. Vincent first before we send them back? These are things we have to be able to be more self-sufficient in that respect. Then there is, of course, the economic impact. We have to plan for that. We have to anticipate what are some of the things going to happen. Right now, we are still in the cruise season. You've heard the concerns that were raised about the ships, very legitimate concerns. I'm not saying that every ship ought to be banned, but you have to have the protocols in place, and I think this is what the CARICOM meeting was addressing at one point, to ensure that we have the maximum level of public safety. And what I want to hear from the government is that if and when there is a case here in St. Vincent, what do we have in place? How are we going to respond? We have to have that. We are at a stage now where other countries have been dealing with it. We have to learn from their experience. Everybody holds up Singapore as the model now as how to respond. Singapore is it's a larger population, but it's a small geographical area as well. We are a small geographical area. The difficulty that we have is that we are an archipelago. You have islands stretching from all the way down from Union Island, up to the mainland. And I've heard, and it's yet to be verified. There are some people who are expressing concerns in the immigration and customs about yachts coming up through the Grenadines, and how are we going to be able to monitor the persons who are there and where they have come from, and the possibility of it's not just the cruise ships. It is a very, very serious and worrying concern. So this is where the public information, the sense that we have doing as much as we can. We know that stopping the spread of the virus is pretty much admitted that that is not possible. That what they're doing now is they're focusing on mitigation. How do you deal with it when it's here? And we had certain personal things that we can do. Washing your hands. I came into the studio here today and tonight, this morning, and you see, I didn't shake hands.
No shake hands, you said.
It wasn't
something a politician.
Right, it's become part of my second nature. This morning, I met someone on the wharf and I hugged her. I said, oh, geez, I just remembered that we're supposed to be implement. But it's a natural human thing, You meet a friend and you want to reach out to them and so on. But in truth, we really have to be very, very careful in how we interact. To try and minimize the risk of the spreading of it, because when somebody is symptomatic, it takes some time. They still don't even know exactly at what point you become
Do you think, which is something that's been discussed, do you think that we should, at this point or very soon, consider closing our borders? What's your take on this?
Well, it's very difficult for us as a small island state really to close the borders, because all of everything we do, we have to trade because we are a small country. We're not self-sufficient in many of the things. But also the disruption to the economy would be very, very severe.
So you're at one with the government with this?
Well, what I'm saying is that we have to take it in stages. There will be some point, and we hope it doesn't come here, but you've seen in other jurisdictions where there are cases. I mean, Italy took some time before they responded in the draconian way that they have now. And they have seen that is necessary. Maybe if they had implemented that at the beginning of the crisis there, the public would not have bought into it because they would have not seen the destructive nature of it and the speed at which it spread. So it's something that we have to always monitor and adjust in a before. What's the word I'm looking for? Not in a reactive way, but in a proactive way. Yes, and it will change as we go.
So are you happy with the way the government is handling
I've said
it,
just
or
now
you're not
that
happy?
I'm not.
You're not happy. Okay,
I'm not
that's
happy
it.
with the lack of information or the scarcity of information.
specific.
Putting out a press statement. This is something you have. I think we have to treat it that we do like a national disaster in the sense that you have to keep updating the people on
So
it.
okay.
It's a potential. It's a potential for that to happen, and we hope it doesn't. And there's a case in Jamaica, we've told, and other parts of the Caribbean. And what do we do when the first case arrives, at our border? What do we do? And that is something that the public needs to have that assurance that we have it in hand and we know what to do. First thing is that we don't have testing here. We need to do that. The spending we're talking about I'm told in Grenada, the government has committed about $2 million, $3 million in a response. We have, $100,000 US. That doesn't seem to be a kind of an equal response for the level of risk and public concern that there is with respect to this. The type of disruption we are seeing in other countries, I've never seen this in my lifetime, where entire communities are just locked down. In Italy, the entire country seems to be locked down. In places, it's unprecedented.
And Dr. Friday, do you think that, at this point it seems inevitable that it's going to be here, but do you think that we are doing enough at our borders to minimize the chances of that happening?
Well, I have not seen any kinds of different protocols. I'm not in government. They haven't. I'm hoping that we will have some interaction with them so that they can.
Do you travel by?
I come by ferry all the time. There's
and
no difference.
There's no
it's
difference.
all the same. But the same way with yachts coming in up and through the islands, what have they put in place to tell the immigration officers, the customs officers? Because I've seen we come through the airport, there are certain protocols that they do now in Barbados, and they check your temperature and so on and so places. I'm sure on cruise ships, before you go on, they check you and so on. So there's some protocol in place that is being done by persons who are essentially in the doorway for our entry into St. Vincent. But with the other smaller vessels coming up the islands and so on, that is really our primary responsibility.
But as leader of the opposition, Dr. Friday, do you think that you can reach out to the Ministry of Health and say, listen, I'm concerned about what's happening here. Would it be possible for me to meet with you guys to get more information?
Yes, I think there's something in train, something is happening with respect to that. So I will follow up on it and we will make sure that that's done, because I don't want this to become a partisan. It's not a partisan issue.
Yes.
We've taken this approach when it comes to violence in the country. We have, you've heard me and Mr. Eustace before me. We're calling government and say, listen, we have to come together as national unity with respect to dealing with this issue and don't make it into a partisan political issue. When I speak about government, about the response not being adequate, I don't want people to take this as it's just Friday, throwing pot shots at government. I don't want anybody to be affected. And anything that I can do, any kind of cooperation I can give with the authorities to make this work for us the best possible in our response, I am willing to do so. The New Democratic Party is willing to do so. I'm willing to do so as a parent, as a community member, as a leader of a political party, as a member of Her Majesty's loyal opposition. Mm-hmm. But it's not something that we should be taking as a partisan issue.
All right.
The government released some information on a place in Argyle that they're looking to use as an isolation center.
Okay.
Do you think that one place would be sufficient? Do you think that realistically?
Well, I would hope that part of my interaction with them is that they will show us what that is and what they intend to do.
Right.
Because then I can become part of the positive messaging if there is such, to try and reassure people. that this is how it's being dealt with, and it's something that we're all involved in. You know, just again, I go back to
and you can help to give confidence to your constituents.
That is what I think is most needed. You know, it's very frightening when you know that something is coming. It's like being in the dark.
Yes.
You know that something is coming. You don't know where it is. You don't know when it has arrived. You don't know where it's going to hit you. You don't know how hard it's going to hit you.
But you know it's coming.
But you know it's coming. So it's terrifying for a lot of people. And sometimes the terror is magnified by the lack of information. And not just the lack of information, the presence of pernicious information, misinformation on social media. Some of the stuff I've read is just absolutely ridiculous. You know, and it's totally irresponsible for those things to be propagated, not just by the individuals who put them out there first, because sometimes people do this for kicks, you know, or to get hits, you know, whatever you call them,
likes,
you know, likes or whatever. I mean, that is, well, I mean, they you know, if you have people doing that, then it's something that is it's irresponsible, and the social media platforms also have to do something about it.
We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to look at something that you've been very passionate about, the overdraft financial issue.
Well, financial accountability.
Accountability in
yes,
general.
And I will take a little time and explain a bit so the people
Let's take a break and come right back. OMG in the morning, we're inside a segment by the New Democratic Party on this Wednesday morning. Let's do this and come right back.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. OMG in the morning.
So we've got Dr. Friday inside with us, the president and leader of the New Democratic Party in this paid segment. And before we went out, he said he want to talk about financial accountability. What does this mean?
Yes, well, it's a very, very important aspect of governance, transparent and accountable government. It's part of a democratic process. We have laws that say how the government is supposed to raise money and spend money. That's the budget process. As you know, you come to the House, you say these are the things we're going to spend on. It's called the estimates. You have a detailed outline, line by line, saying how much money you're going to spend on this and so forth. Then we have when the budget proper is debated, the minister presents and so on, they say how they're going to raise money to do it. This is the, if you like, the framework within which the spending and the money raising is to be done throughout the year. Part of that process is that it says, well, the government will receive a certain amount of money. They put them in there, you know, so this is what we're going to raise by taxes. This is what we're getting by loans. This is what we're getting by grants. And then they have a big category where they say, well, we're not quite sure where the money coming from, so we put it all together and we call it other receipts, other capital receipts. That means that we can't get it from taxes. All the loans we're going to get are accounted for. All the grants we're going to get are accounted for. But we have a $1.2 billion budget, and it sounds good. So we have this category called other receipts where the money somehow drop out of the sky. I don't know. But anyway, that's where it is. And but the point is, whatever they put there, then they should, you know, stick to it and account to it as they come to Parliament. Part of the procedure, and I'm talking here about the overdraft in particular, is that it says that government can borrow a certain amount of money by way of fluctuating overdraft. By borrowing, what they really mean is they say it lasts for a year, because at the beginning of the year, we pass a resolution that says government between January 1st and December 31st can operate this fluctuating overdraft.
And fluctuating means?
Yes, it means what it is that you have budgeted already for your expenditures and for the monies to pay for those things in the budget. But it says that you recognize when you run a business, money comes in at different times. When your bills come, you got to pay them. But the money might come a week late. So they say, all right, well, instead of waiting until it comes and people come and knocking at your door, you can use the money from the overdraft. And when your money comes in, the presumption is that you're going to put it back. And then, it comes back down and so on. It's not really supposed to be additional financing. It is supposed to be an operating financing that you use to bridge the gap between money coming in and money going out. So it's not supposed to be at the end of the year, the government debt going up by a certain amount because of the overdraft.
But an overdraft is really a loan, isn't it?
It is a loan in the sense that, but remember, your overdraft, you could negotiate anything you want with your bank. Government has to come to Parliament under Section 44 of the Finance Administration Act. It says any borrowings have to be approved by Parliament.
Was that done?
In some extent, but not with respect to what is happening with the overdraft. And here's what I'm explaining to you. One is that with the Parliament, they do the part where the government says you have to come to Parliament and get approval. So they bring the resolution, It's passed. It says $50 million. We will operate an overdraft to that extent. But the act says that that money is really for a year. And also the resolution says the same thing. It repeats what the act says for a year. So, and it's the point of the matter is that it's not supposed to be money that you add to the existing stock of government debt. What has been happening is that the $50 million has been exceeded repeatedly. Even the parliament says you can only use $60 million as an overdraft. They have routinely exceeded it.
Right.
And what they have done, instead of bringing it down at the end of the year as it's supposed to be, that is what it is in law. They say they practice, it's been going this way all the time and so on. Well, that's not what the law says. If you're going to be complying, then let's start with that. If you can't, then you say why and make that a one-off thing, not something that becomes routine. And so what has happened is that the overdraft has been abused to the extent that the $50 million has been exceeded repeatedly, to the point where the government decides, you know what, this is becoming too much. Let's convert it into a regular, I would say, a long-term loan. The law says in order to take a money out as a loan, you got to come to parliament to get approval. But instead, they go to the bank and they negotiate with them and say, okay, we have an overdraft of so much and so much in 2018, for example. Let's take $40 million of that and make it into a long-term loan.
Right.
And so it will now be a part of the overall debt of government. The problem with that is that two things. One, it doesn't conform with the law because you didn't come to parliament to say, let's borrow an additional $40 million. Okay? And that is where the scrutiny comes in. Because when it comes to parliament, you can say, well, what do you need this money for? In October last year, for example, they came back and they said they wanted another 50, I can't remember the exact amount, but I think it's $50 million for part of the public sector investment program. We said, no, you already borrowed $100 million. Where are you coming for more for? So we didn't approve it. We did not support it. The government went ahead and approved it because they have a majority. But at least it came to parliament and you could expose it and the public can make a judgment as to whether this is good policy or not. In the case of the overdraft loan, it's not debated at all. It doesn't come to the parliament.
Prime Minister Gonsalves
Well, let me finish.
said that you've got this wrong.
Well, he will say that, but he hasn't shown where I got it wrong. I saw his response, and he tried to conflate the overdraft with the public sector investment loan, which is approved separately. If it was the same thing, it would have been one piece of legislation or one resolution. The public sector investment loan is approved separately.
Right.
And they say this is the money you need to do investment in public investment program to do public works and so on. You say you want $100 million, we approve that. Okay, fine. The overdraft is not part of that. That's separate. That is to say, even when you set up the public sector investment loan, you say, okay, fine, we don't have the money right now to pay the contract or whatever, and so we use some of the overdraft to do it. The point is that when that money you already borrowed, the $100 million, when you get that money, you have to put it back and get the overdraft back down. It's not supposed to be used the overdraft as an alternative to using that money from the public sector investment loan, which has already been approved on the separate head by Parliament. So that is fundamentally wrong. The second thing, as I said, so those three things. One is that they don't have permission from the Parliament to borrow above the limit. The limit is $50 million. They don't have permission from Parliament to convert any part of it into a loan. Why that is problematic? I've said one is because it doesn't conform with the law, but secondly, it's expensive. Right. Overdraft is expensive money.
Interest rate and all.
Yeah, the interest rates range from between 6.5% to 12%. From central government to the various other institutions, the IADC and financial services units and so on, who borrow money, who use the overdraft. And it all is consolidated on the government. So that's expensive money. You don't want to be borrowing money by that means. So we are paying back these loans that they converted at 8%, 8.5% interest. That is not the kind of loans that government take out to run their operations ordinarily, because then that will make your debt servicing very high. And if you look at the records, you would see, and this is getting a little technical, but the point is it's squeezing the government finances because you don't have enough money to do the things that you need to do, which is buying medicine for the hospital, buying bandages, fixing the potholes in the road, the routine things that we take for granted, because the amount of money the government have left after paying the debt, paying salaries and so on, paying for light and all the overheads, the usual recurrent expenditure. There's little left to do these other things that make life comfortable for me and you.
Right.
And so this is where the problem lies. And this is where we said the government has been they've been abusing the financial accountability mechanisms. But more than that, it's been costing us money because we're borrowing money at expense, and there's no proper accounting as to how it's being spent. And we are in an election year now, and we expect that they've already promised all kinds of things in the budget. I've told you there's $205 million that they can't say where that's going to come from if they're going to spend it. But the temptation is there to continue with this reckless practice of spending, and then somebody has to pay the bill later on. What I was saying to you is between 2017 and 2020, this year, the debt service as a ratio, as a percentage of the current revenue, that's the money that the government collects to pay the interest and so on the debt, has grown alarmingly in the last 3 years. In 2017, it was 25.1% of current revenue. The money you collect, you say you have to set aside a quarter of that to pay the interest on the debt, right? And what has happened now is between 2017 and now, that has jumped from 25% to 39% this year. Whoa, indeed. Almost 40 cents. And so you ask yourself, well, why is the government is in this tight bind? And that's exactly why. And this is where the insistence on our part of a financial accountability and staying within the regulation, because these are the guardrails that have been built up over the course of time, and say, don't just do what is convenient. Stick within these things. If it's tough, that is what government is. Manage the best way you can with that and try and grow the economy. The NDP did it for years and years and years. They had a surplus every year of about 5%, which they used to fix potholes and do goatee tracks and all them stuff that they used to malign. But this is how you do responsible government. Grenada fell off the track at one point. Now they're back with a vengeance. They have introduced legislation to make the government even more accountable. Every year they have to say, well, this is how we're spending the money. This is where we are with respect to our debt, and we have to maintain a certain amount of a certain ratio. And that is something I think we have to do. Again, technical, but it's important because it focuses. What I tell people, the reason why this is important, it affects your life because it says how much money government has to spend on the things you need, whether it's books for the school loan program, whether it's providing medicines in the hospital. It's difficult when you have a young mother come and she goes to the hospital with a child who's wheezing, and they say, well, this is what the diagnosis is, but you have to go to the pharmacy and buy the medicine when she could have gotten them ordinarily from the clinic, and they can't get them because they don't have them. Why they don't have them? They will give you all kind of excuse. Somebody didn't order it, or the order is in somebody's drawer. But the point of it is it comes down, usually it's money.
How can you yourself and Prime Minister be so far apart on this issue?
I don't know. I can't account for the distance. All I say is that I know what I'm saying is in accordance with the law and regulations, and it is consistent with good governance. Who wants to take another path? Let them justify it. I've heard the Prime Minister's response. They are not addressing the fundamental issues. They're arguing about, Friday is wrong and so on. What are you wrong on? You're saying, okay, instead of $41.9 million, it's $41.7 million. What difference that makes? The point is you are over the limit. You don't have authority to do it. You are continuing to do it over and over again and not accounting to the people. But most importantly, it's costing us. It's costing us dearly because we now have to spend more and more. $267 million this year has to be set aside to pay the debt, interest and the principal in this 1 year alone. And where is that going to come from when they say they have a primary surplus of over $2 million? It's complicated sometimes, but the point that people have to understand is this. The figures that I have presented come from the estimates. If I am wrong, the estimates are wrong. Okay? I stand by those figures. But the point is that to deflect them and to say somehow that the essential point that we're making is invalid because you have a difference of, a couple of $100,000 in the figures, when the principal argument is that you're exceeding the limit, the $50 million limit, is still the case where you are converting. They have 3 overdraft loans now. You're converting money into the overdraft into permanent loans without parliamentary approval, and you're paying an interest rate of 8%, which is costing the people.
Was this? I know we're out of time. We're over the limit in time.
Well, I'm very thankful for your generosity.
Was this practice started in 1996 thereabout by Mr. Eustace and continued? Do you know?
We've gone back in the records, and the overdraft loan started around 2010-11. That's the first time we see it in the estimates appearing there, around that period.
Okay.
So Who wants to show anything otherwise, bring the evidence. I'm presenting you what I've seen because I've asked our research officer to look at the matter. They've gone back all the way to 2000, 2001, and the overdraft loan, where you're converting part of the overdraft into an outstanding loan, a permanent, if you like, or a long-term loan. That's a new phenomenon. And the practice of basically feeling that you can do whatever is convenient and justify it. Oh, we're doing it for poor people and so on. And, Friday don't want us to spend this money and spend that money. I would love for those things to be done. But the point of the matter is, it's the same poor people coming back and pay for it. Because when you tell me I'm giving you a handout here, or we're doing something for you there, but you got to go and buy the medicine in your hospital for your child. Who's paying for that? And you can't get the books for your children to go to school. Who's paying for that? And you drive your car, come down the road, and hit a pothole, and you break your shocks or whatever. Who's paying for that? That's an indirect tax because you're paying your money to register your vehicle and so on and so forth, and you can't drive safely on the roads. So they say, we ain't fixing the road, you fix your car. That's an indirect tax.
We got quite a bit of messages here for you, but we're out of time. But let me ask you this one. Someone is asking, do we collect monies only to pay debts of 40%? Who's benefiting from our high debt?
Who's benefiting?
Yes.
Well, I suppose the government gets on the face of it, they consider doing all these things. They're promising a lot in the budget this year. And we have shown you that they don't have the money to do it. Well, the capacity to implement is a different matter, but even on the face of it, what they're promising, they can't deliver because they don't have the money. $205 million essentially in deficit based on what they have put in the estimates. So the debt, to pay the debt, the government has to trim from all programs, every ministry. If they say they're going to give this ministry $20 million, they may actually give them $17 million. We've pointed this out over the years with respect to things that are easy to see, the subvention, the transfers that are made at the end of the budget every year. Take, for example, to the Tourism Authority. They will say, okay, we're giving the Tourism Authority $18 million this year. And I've shown that over the years, usually they average around 40% of what it is they actually transfer. Some years they do a little bit more, but never gave the amount they ever promised. The same thing with Braxa. That's why your roads are so bad big.
Dr. Friday, yes. What can the opposition realistically do to take care of this situation with the overdraft?
Change the government. That's the most realistic and practical thing because we have raised it and they have said, even though we are telling the truth, we are exposing this situation. They have said that this is just par for the course. It can't be the way in which we run government because if we are getting deeper and deeper into a hole and you say that that's fine, that's not fine with me because the people that you are claiming to represent are the people who are going to suffer. They're the ones who are going to pay it. The politicians and the people who are higher ups in offices and so on, they're all comfortable. They drive 3 SUVs, they take vacations, they do all kinds of things. But the ordinary person who now has to come and take money out of his pocket to do things that they used to get as a service from government, that is a different way of taxing them.
Yes.
You agree with me?
Yeah.
You agree with me, baby?
I'm facilitating.
Nice.
You just swing a curveball at me there. I know we're really out of time, but I'm deliberately going on with you. The government, the Speaker of the House has resigned on another issue now. Yeah. We're waiting to hear the new nominee from the government, from the Unity Labour Party. Do you have a nominee?
Well, we will let you know in time.
So that's a yes?
That's yes.
I'm not asking you the name.
We will let you know in time.
No, I'm not asking you who the name is.
All of it.
Do you have a nominee?
Whether or who, we will let you know in time.
It sounds like he doesn't. You don't have a. No, he does not. The NDP don't have a nominee. Why not?
Were you looking for a scoop?
Not a morning scoop.
You're telling me this is my program.
No, I'm just asking. I mean, we've heard all the speculations about who the next speaker is going to be, the nominee from the government side.
They've said who it is?
No, we're hearing names.
Right, so you want me to go ahead of them? Come on, Ben.
No, but do you have
it
someone?
It will be proper. Let the government.
I'm not going to ask you who the person is. Do you have someone that you're going to nominate? Because the opposition normally nominates someone as well. Do you have someone?
As to whether or who, you will know in time. Let the government do their thing.
So you have a nominee. You just don't want to say. And I'm not asking you to say who the person is. You have a nominee that you're going to put forward.
Whether we will nominate somebody and who we will nominate, you will know in time.
Okay.
That's basically. To me, it's not the most important issue. We're going to have elections just now, and we're going to elect a speaker. Every new parliament, you have to elect a new speaker.
Right. So it's not a big deal for you.
It's a big deal in the sense that you have to have somebody who's capable. You can't have a square peg and wrong hole. You can't have somebody who's hyper partisan. You know, I mean, they have the majority in the House. Whoever we nominate or they nominate, they will basically get the person who's the speaker. You have to put a speaker who has some professional integrity to say, listen, I may support a party. Everybody supports a party. But when I'm in the office of the chair of the speaker, I am performing a role that is constitutionally entrusted to me, and I have to do it responsibly.
That being said, were you happy with the performance of the last speaker?
Not entirely, no. Because as you know, he turned down our
vote of
motion
no
for no
confidence.
vote of no confidence and other motions in the past, which I think was improper. I know was improper. And he voted it down. Basically, what they said between him and the Prime Minister as the leader of the House is that you can't bring a motion of no confidence in St. Vincent.
So you weren't happy with him entirely?
Well, not entirely, but I think he tried to be more balanced than the previous speaker. And certainly some rulings that he made, I agreed with. I won't agree with everything, but certainly the one that stands out is the motion of no confidence. That was it, because it sets a really terrible precedent. What it says is that you can't bring a motion of no confidence without the permission of the governing party, which is ridiculous.
But the government have a one-seat majority, though, Dr. Friday. Do you ever intend again to bring another motion of no confidence?
Whether and when, we will let you know.
Okay, based on the circumstance, of course. Yes.
Spook fishing again.
Of course, I got to scoop. What's going on with? I can't have you not ask you about Patel. What's going on with Patel?
Oh, wonderful! He's doing great job down there. He's had 8 public meetings, week after week after week. I was there in Rose Hall on. What was it, on Monday night?
Yes.
You know,
that's when that's the night when he said to vote for Dr. Honorable Ralph Gonsalves. Were you upset?
He didn't say that.
What did he say?
You didn't listen to the whole context of it.
Okay, what did he say?
The whole statement that Patel made there is basically that the government, the candidate that you have there is not the person that anybody should support. That he's the candidate. That's the entire message that he has.
You didn't hear him.
So don't go passing, taking one word out of a sentence.
You didn't hear him say.
No, not at all. I was there. I was present. Nothing jarred me. I heard him say, and he explained himself in certain things and more clearly so that people don't misunderstand.
And what about?
But obviously you didn't listen to that
about the Unity Labour Party
but
being the better party.
Who said that?
Patel Matthews.
The better party to ruin St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
This is outside of the paid time, okay? This is my time now. This is my time now. This is outside of the paid time. So I could jab you.
I'm happy for that.
I could jab you on these things now.
But what I'm saying is this: is that we had that wonderful meeting in Rose Hall. On Saturday night, and I must say, you talk about the caller said about the public meetings and so on, and we do at our meetings. I certainly and encourage other persons to practice the precautionary measures that have been, told to us to do.
Right.
Instead of greeting and so on, you had a bump or you just acknowledge and so on. You don't have the actual
handshake,
contact and those kinds of things. It's tough as a politician.
You can't be a politician and not shake hands.
But that is that we do encourage, and we talk about this all the time. We encourage people to fall within that pattern of precautionary measures so that we could protect ourselves and retard the spread of that dreaded virus.
I'm personally happy to hear you say that you're willing to work along with the government and the ministry, and you're willing to sit down with the ministry to get more information. And
why wouldn't I? I'm a national. I'm somebody who cares about it. That's the whole purpose for me being in public service.
Okay.
I don't need a big soapbox to stand on. I'm here because I want to help my community. I want to help St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So naturally, when there's something that I can participate in that would be good for the country,
all right,
I would do it.
Right. You got anything more you want to jab him with?
No,
outside of the paid time. This is outside of the paid
No.
time.
I
so
don't
we can
jab. I don't jab.
Yeah.
Dr. Friday.
That's a job coming there now.
No. A lot of persons are of the opinion that the New Democratic Party has not really been doing enough of what it takes to convince the public of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that, your party is capable of governing St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What do you say to those people?
Well, I would urge them to continue to listen. Sometimes you have to change the channel too. If you're listening, you have to take the initiative, and say, okay, let's hear what they are speaking about. But I acknowledge the critique And it is something that we are going to be working on more and more because we are in an election year. I'm here today in the studio, reaching Bing's massive audience all over the place to try and get our message across. Because it is not so much, it's not just about the NDP. I think it's important that people understand what we're about, because they have to make a choice. I said this year it's a year of consequence. Whatever choice we make now is going to have serious repercussions for us going forward. And so it's important that we reach the audiences. For those persons who say that, I say yes, I acknowledge that if you feel that way, then we have to try harder. And we are trying harder to get our message through. But the point that I'm making is that when we get our message through to people, more often than not, vast majority, they are prepared to say, yes, I think the NDP can do what it takes to bring St. Vincent back to a path of prosperity. And that Dr. Friday is somebody that I would like to see take the helm of government and to lead us into prosperity. I mean, there are things that we have outlined, I could say it here like in a quick way. We said that we're going to reduce the VAT from 16 to 13%. That'll put money back in people's pockets.
What are you going to do to collect the difference?
Wait, let me tell you the things that we're going to do. There's that. We're going to cap the electricity, for example. People complaining, especially when your fuel surcharge goes up above your consumption charge. That seems somehow wrong. So we said, okay, we cap that to make sure that never happens. We are also going to make sure that the students, young people, that will pay for their C-second CAPE. I mean, these are things that we will do. In government, we have to raise tax-free and debt-free money. And this is what the Citizenship and Investment Program is. This is why Grenada now is putting $2 million to fight COVID-19. We're putting 100,000 US. Where do you think that money is coming from? You want to go and borrow it?
But given the situation, though, with this COVID-19 disease, will you, and given where it's originated, are you still happy to pursue this Citizen by Investment Program, which comes out, most of the buyers comes out of Asia? Will you, because there are persons who would say, there are persons who would say, okay, the world is running from China.
No.
But it seems like Dr. Friday wants to run towards China.
That's nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, the two things, they have nothing to do with each other. So I don't even want to dignify that with a comment. Being honest with you. They have nothing to do with one another.
So all of these things that I'm happy to hear about, the payment of students who want to write these subjects. Great idea. The dropping of the VAT from 16 to 13, is it? Is it 13? Yeah. $3 difference.
No. That's at 3%. But look at it. Yeah.
It's $3.
No. That is over 18% reduction in your tax bill. Your tax component.
Okay.
Because it's 3/16th, not 3%.
Okay. I don't have the time to argue about it.
But it's not arguing.
I don't have the time. I don't have the time to take you on it. So you are saying the only thing that you're presenting so far to make up for this difference in the collection of revenues is the Citizen by Investment Program. Additionally, you've not given your list of goods from the basket that you're gonna take up, because you're saying that there'll be
the reduction of the rate itself covers everything. And there are the additional things.
But I'm sure I heard someone say that there are over 100 items that you're going to
that is what we have. We have
100% off.
We have said that over the years, and we continue to say that. We will continue to implement that.
Okay, I want to hear that. Not now, but I want to hear what are those things.
Well, those things they change over time, but we will present those specific items, not the whole 100 list. I'm sure you're not going to want me to stand up here and especially if it's on your time.
That being said, we gotta go.
To go through a list of 100 items. The people benefit. I'll tell you a story, Ekebing. The other day I was down in Pembroke, and a woman was coming out of the supermarket. And she came and she had a receipt, and she was looking at it by the door. I hope she remembers that conversation. And I looked at her and I said, what are you doing? She said, I just come. I said, yeah. I said, under the NDP, that bill would be less. And she said, yeah, how so? I said, well, because we are going to reduce the tax, the VAT from 13 to 16%. And then she said, okay, that's good. And she walked off. And then she come back. She said, that's really good, because I had to put back an item, because I didn't have enough money. I said, under our administration, you probably would not have had to have done that, because your bill would have been less. Yes. That's put money in people's pocket. There is something that's very important that I want people to understand. The government owes people a lot of money. And the reason why they're not paying, people are afraid to sue government. Because you win the battle, you lose the war. Right? And so we are going to make sure that those people, the contractors, suppliers and so on, who government owes money to, we are going to pay those bills, because it's important for those people to be able to invest that money back into their businesses, to hire more people. They pay tax in other ways, and the economy gets a boost. But government can't go along thinking that it has first dibs and all the people money.
Right.
That if they owe you money, they had to pay you. You had to come and essentially drag it out of them. You had to threaten to sue them. You have to withhold services, contractors who don't finish buildings. They just walk away from them and nobody cares. Go out by the community college, you will see. They have a lab out there that Indotech, a company from Barbados, started so many years ago. And this is being funded with grant money from the European Union, under the Banana Company Measures Program. They walked away because the money wasn't coming forward. The place is there, no windows, no roof on it, and it's not functioning. And so these are things that if we are truly interested in developing the economy and in helping farmers to recover from the loss of bananas, then you got to put these things in place.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. OMG in the morning.
In some cases, we have probably cut off the amount of people who visit them. No, start now. Don't be shy or shy about it. Start now, okay? And be just proactive about it, because these are the ones that they tell us are the most vulnerable to what is happening. So if we care about them, let's begin to protect them. We know that they would have special diets. Let's make sure that we have certain things around. We're ready for them. My only hope in this is that this is a virus which doesn't do well in heat. And so as spring comes and summer approaches, we can see a decrease. This is my hope. This is nobody telling me this. This is my hope. But I will say this. We have to be prepared for the next winter season when this resurfaces. How will it resurface? We have a lot of time on our hands. The CDB has said that if we don't contain this thing well, it will hit our economies badly, because most of the Caribbean economies are already in trouble. We don't have the fiscal space for this. We just don't.
Jerry, how do you think the Ministry of Health is handling the situation? Yesterday, they held media practitioners, specifically broadcast media. They held a session for them yesterday afternoon. How do you feel that what's your take on the way the ministry is handling it now?
Well, you know how I felt about a week or two ago. I think they're up the ante, and I'm seeing more stuff coming out from them, and so that's good. I think I say to them, I say to all, there has to be a more consistent strategy in place. We have to have daily, if possible, every 2 hours. We have to do it, because the problem with communication today in our countries is that it is very broken up. Bing and Boom have its audience. They're here. And they have the times when they're here. We have how many radio stations? Each has its own audience. Each has its own, what must I call it, signature. That's what the struggle of communication is today, you know. You remember the days when we had 7 or 5, we had one place you go there and you'd say this thing, everybody here. We don't have that anymore. And that's the major struggle of communicating today, is that we have to understand the audiences, and we have to be ready to speak to the audiences, speak to the young people on a boom, on a hot, on a thing. You have to speak to them differently than you would speak to the people who are on NBC radio. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
You've got to speak differently to the people who turn up to the political talk shows. This is where the work is. One message cannot fit everybody. That's the challenge we have. All right? And I believe that more businesses also. I know of one business that has invited in the Ministry of Health to do some work for them. More businesses need to do that. We really need to get very down to earth on this, you know, and very granular in terms of how we are going to manage this. But the most important thing is not just getting the information. The most important thing, how do we help people to practically put this information in place? And that's where the challenge will be. We have to definitely be curtailing too many crowd kind of situations. You've been asking NDP to put off their meetings. Fine. But it has to follow through. Businesses that have people who come in contact with them, the banks and stuff like that, they have to have a consistent cleaning cycle that gives people confidence. It's a lot of work. Our minivans. I know most minivans take pride in being clean, but cleaning out the inside and wiping down the inside because we have children, we have people who use these vans. It's one thing to run to the next, you just turn around and run, but we have to help them to understand the importance of wiping down the interiors of the vans where people touch. These are just some of
Airport
the
staff
simple
especially too.
Airport,
I think,
exactly.
yeah.
You see, we tend to pay a lot of attention about the airport, and that is right. But we have to bring it home. We have to be able to contain it so that if it comes, it stays in particular areas. Do you hear what they said in the United States of America now? They're called in an orphan area just outside of New York, and they have brought in the National Guard. So when they put you inside, you have to stay inside it. The United States of America, you know? The champion of people's rights. But there comes a time when the safety of the entire is more important than the individual right. And we will find ourselves, if this thing spreads, exactly there. I don't like the song that Canada is saying, hey, one of these people came from Trinidad and Tobago, you know.
Yeah.
I don't like the song of that.
And given that Carnival just took place in Trinidad.
We're now, we're actually literally within that period of incubation.
Exactly.
We're just coming to the end of it. So there's a lot to be paid attention to, every last one of us. And those of us in this business of communication, those of us who have the responsibility to speak to the nation, must take this seriously. And must, as I keep saying to us, we have to find opportunities. We have to bring them in. Lots of music, cut the music, bring people in who know. Hear the voices of the man on the street. What are his concerns? What concerns them? And find a way to speak to those issues. That's what we have to do.
And Jerry, earlier, Bing would have told us about a cruise ship that would not be...
Well, I'm waiting, because the Grenada did not allow the Ada Paula to go there. It is due here tomorrow.
Oh, it's due here tomorrow.
Yes, because earlier this week, the Minister of Tourism was boasting about 27,000 people who came to here, la.
Don't you find that a little bit insensitive around this time? It's a little bit, maybe not insensitive, but it's a bad time to be boasting about that.
Insensitive is right, and it lacks discussion. When you hear the United States of America is saying that, telling people if people don't cruise, stay off a cruise ship, right? The United States is saying to people, cut this cruise thing. And we are boasting, we've had cruise ships around the world with problems, and we are boasting how many cruise ships we had in the last couple of weeks. Are we for real? Are we really for real? It's either that or the minister is totally disconnected from the reality of what is going on. So let's see what happens with the other Paula, whether we will be voting it on Friday, because I got the sense that the CARICOM meetings decided on some protocols. Well, let's see if that is really so and how it really works.
Jerry,
on Friday.
One more thing to that always worries me a bit is the fact that in Vincentian society, a lot of us live in family homes where there are a number of persons in the house who go out. You have your school kids, they're coming into contact with people at school. The people who are working, they're going out to their various jobs. So you have a situation where in our communities, we are living together. And so in a situation like that, you may find that the virus spreads rapidly.
And that's why I'm saying each family has to take care of its situation, especially if you have young children. One of the things is wash our clothes more often, because the virus attaches itself to things like the clothing and stuff like that. I see UNICEF put out some stuff there. UNICEF is basically saying, listen, this virus, in terms of being airborne, is not the big thing. It's that it lands on stuff. And that is where people pick up the contamination. So when you go out, let's wash. Let's just wash our clothing more often than we normally would. And if you have children and you go into the house, don't pick up the child with your clothing on. These are just some basic stuff that maybe we should be always doing. But in a time like this, it becomes absolutely necessary that we pay attention to it.
On a different issue, Jerry, because I got to switch some gears here. I got a message this morning while interviewing Dr. Friday, someone said this interview shows a completely different side of Dr. Friday. Um, did you hear him? What are your opinion about what he said and how he handled himself this morning?
No, I find Dr. Friday has gotten a lot more candid. And I think that is important, especially for the likability persons. If people want to be talking to somebody who they feel is all canned and nervous and things, he's gotten a lot more candid. I think he has been growing into the job. It's clear that he has a greater sense of confidence. He has done some work around the country where he has gone community to community. And I'm sure that has done well for building his confidence. And you could hear his confidence coming through. When you speak to him as compared to maybe a year or so ago, he now seems that he has claimed the job and he is willing, he's comfortable in it. That's important.
Yes. Also, the match yesterday, did you follow it by chance? The match and rally?
No. I have not a chance. I'm being 100%. So you get me.
How are you doing?
But I didn't get a chance to follow that, honestly.
Okay.
But I'm sure Pastor will tell us about it.
Yes, I hope so. I hope so. All right, is there anything else you want to raise?
Yeah, sure. One last thing. Today, let's not forget the situation in Ghana where those elections are still unresolved.
Yes.
The judge will rule today. Two things. The opposition brought the matter to court, stopping the GCOM, which is the Electoral Commission, from declaring the results of the election. The opposition says they want a recount because they don't think that what GCOM has is the correct count, okay? So they've held an injunction to stop them making that declaration, because after that declaration, it means that the president can be installed. So on Sunday, the GCOM challenged whether or not the judge had a right to hear the case. So on Sunday, she proved to them that she has jurisdiction over the case. She can hear it. So she heard the case yesterday. And today at 2 o'clock, she will give her ruling on what it is. Here's what the ruling is. Either she will say to GCOM, go back and count, or she will say that GCOM has a right to declare the elections as they have. That's the two rulings that there can be. Now, what concerns me is that I see a delegation from CARICOM, 4 prime ministers going into Ghana now. What are they going into Ghana now for? First of all, Ghanaians can call them. I know that. So what are they going there for? And why this bothers me more is that these are some of the same prime ministers who, when the similar situation happened in Venezuela, said there must be no intervention. You remember?
Yes.
You remember CARICOM was divided over whether or not people should go into Venezuela. They say no interference, no intervention. Leave the people let them work out themselves. The only prime minister who has said that right now, vocally, is Prime Minister Gaston Bonga of Antigua. He says leave them alone. Now, if the court is involved at this stage, what in God's name can CARICOM be doing? The matter is a matter for the court. If the court calls it, what are you doing there? What are you doing there? And worse, the Vincent and Grenadines, as far as I am concerned, still has an election petition that is inconclusive. The matter is still in court. Prime Minister Gonzalez is going to do what? And when you speak like this, people get upset, and people say this and that. But this is the reality. We just had a situation in Dominica. Prime Minister Skerrit is going when Prime Minister Skerrit bluntly refused the recommendation of CARICOM, the OAS, and the Commonwealth, saying to him that your electoral process is flawed. When they submitted the report to him, tell him he really had not ever done now. That's my order. But these people going to help somebody else fix elections? No. But in Venezuela, they had so much things how everybody must stop out, they must interfere. And it was some of the same problems with in elections. The opposition in Venezuela was saying the elections were not conducted well. What is wrong with us? I can't.
Hold on, man. You're sick. You're sick. You're going. You feel well. Stay on my rest now. Listen to this.
Good morning, Bing, Emil, and Diego. And the issue of the coronavirus and a place to really locate persons who get infected. I want to put on the table a place that at least can be most appropriate as well. That place over by below Fort there, where they used to put people for leprosy and so on. That is a big area. I think that area, proper road, good grading and so on, and spend some money to develop that place. It's probably going to cost less than the home out there in Argyle, and put systems in place to get it up to par.
What's your response, Jerry?
I understand fully what the person is saying. The thing is, we have to start the work yesterday because that area needs some serious rehabilitation, and because it's in an old kind of setting like that, I think that in itself, you don't want an area where the virus can hold on to the walls and stuff like that. But the person is right. That is an area where you have the space. You have to develop it. It's just like Prime Minister Mia Mockley saying that the old fort in an army headquarters in Barbados is where they're looking at doing the same thing. That's a very good suggestion. Totally agree with it. But if we're going to...
Hang on, there's another one. I just hit it by accident. Let me finish.
How are you, sweetheart? Special morning to you. Good morning to everyone. Diego, good morning. Maria, good morning wherever you are. Love coming from me. Mr. Joseph, you ever thought about going on the streets and like interviewing people, normal citizens, to find out just the way they feel about this whole virus that's going around? Let's hear from the people and their concerns and how they feel, and ask them if they think they have been given enough information from the authorities to calm their nerves and go on with their life. Because me there in the gym right now, and I'm telling you, Joseph, for the past 2 weeks, and I have battle a lighter, me spread on every machine. You can see how the white people watch me. Good for them. And I'm in such a big gym, and not to give myself no credit, I'm the only person in here who walks with a towel. I mean, I've been doing it for years. But you might think this thing going on and people might walk with a towel and have some common decency. But no, they ain't doing it. So me spray down the machine and then right in front of them. If you see the roll, I get it. So I'd love for you to have that segment on the street of Kingston.
What do you say, Jerry?
First part of the person's presentation, there is genuinely a weakness in our media to go on the streets and get what is known a basic media menu, Vox Pop, the voice of the people. We don't see sufficient of that in our media work, and she's absolutely right. That is how we know what people are thinking. You see, we sit in the studios, and if persons have the ability to phone us, we listen to what they say. But oftentimes, it's much more upfront and candid on the streets, and she's right. We need to do more of that in terms of the media work. It takes more resources, it takes more time, but it's one way of getting face-to-face with the public, and the public can be very candid with you. The second thing she says about the towels, I would not support that. If you walk around with towels, the towels get contaminated. If lots of people have the towels, you have lots of contamination. So I wouldn't necessarily support that. I mean, if it is paper towel, something that you use and dispose, yes, but towels?
Yes,
no.
Yeah. Paper towel sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, buddy, straight up?
Straight up.
Straight up, real talk, unfiltered, and in your face. Jerry George on Boom 106. We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. OMG in the morning.
All right. Let's see if we got him on there. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Doc. Sorry about the delay this morning. Must apologize. I'm sure you would understand a bit.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Danilo. How are you?
Before we go any further, I accept your apology.
No.
That was resting on your heart or
That
something?
was there.
Yeah. Doc, she was really thinking about it, eh?
To say
that
I forgive you when you did what you did. I didn't even wait for your apology. I had forgiven you already, but your apology is accepted.
Not like being at all.
What the hello? wait. Not like Bing? I am the one. Oh, jeez.
He actually was trying to help you out.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You know what I mean, Doc? Come on, Doc.
And I cool, you know, sometimes I'm human. And listen, man, if we walk about thinking that we are perfect and we don't do things, have a little football every now and again.
I know I'm perfect. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah, but I am.
One in that, one in that.
Something, you know? You have to realize, and I tell people this all the time. Don't go about pretending that whether you're a pastor or a sitter of the pew or whatever, that you're perfect. You're not. And so you have your moments, and you say, listen, I had a moment, I'm sorry. All right? And so I had a little moment there when I just, just got really heated and thought, you know what, I better not say anything, so I'm out. And actually,
Doc, we gotta work on that. We gotta work on that.
Daniel, no. I reflected on the fact, man, that that's not a good message to Daniel, as my friend there. So, but it was sincere when I said, listen, I'm sorry, it was sincere.
So what are we talking about today, Doc?
Before you start talking, because before you, what you see,
Go ahead.
Same thing you're saying, Diego. Same thing you're saying.
Go ahead,
Diego and I was saying that this morning.
time.
Come on, no man. You see, she like, oh Lord, the roll eyes and the and that and that. We were saying that I don't remember if we've and I know where you're gonna go this morning, and understandably so because the march and rally was yesterday. We don't remember hearing you speak at all about COVID-19 and its impact on SVG.
Let me pull up something here real quick, right? Because I put something out, a lot of it that was done up for me by people who are in the know with respect to that, messaging to my church members and to other people who subscribe to our media posts. But what I just put out is that. Anyways, let me just not put. I don't know enough about it, other than what is being put out on the public. I am not into immunology or whatever it is, and I don't. I urge the public to take every precaution, follow what the experts are saying, because they're the ones who are in the know. Your local health officials who are there to give guidance on this matter, follow them. I caution against panic, but at the same time, because fear is not a healthy thing, but respect the thing and what it can do. I hear people saying that, the kill rate is somewhere under 3%, and as more people get tested and recover, the kill rate it's probably going to drop to point something of percent. The point is that it has a kill rate, and even if it kills 1 out of 100,000, that is still somebody who's dead. And if you could save a life, save a life. So from a general layman's level, I have been urging caution, urging people to pay attention to the health officials, the simple personal procedures that you can do in terms of the washing of their hands and, covering your mouth when you cough, etc., etc. I've been urging that. What I have also said is that we do not have any reported case or confirmed case here. We want to continue to believe that we are, that we are spared. And
Pastor,
we want to continue to believe that, okay?
Pastor, a lot of reports that come out are urging persons to not attend big gatherings, to avoid big gatherings.
And
let me just. I'm getting to a point.
Okay.
Obviously, you're a pastor. You have church every Sunday. I know for us in the Catholic Church, certain things have been cut out. There's no sign of peace in that way. Well, there's sign of peace, but you don't shake hands. They're looking at how they do communion, saying "Our Father" and holding hands. Certain things in the Mass they've been adjusted. So I'm just wondering, because you said you don't really know much about it, much more than I guess everybody would. What are you doing personally in your...
I had a meeting with my fellowship minister just on Monday with respect to following through with some of these recommendations in terms of personal space, what we can do in terms of the way we do fellowship to prescribe and to promote a different form of doing that outside of the shaking of hands and hugging. We also we do individual Lord's Supper. So we give the bread individually and we give the wine in individual vials. And so that, eliminates that issue. But yeah, there are adjustments that will have to be made. The thing is to be respectful. The thing is to follow every guideline given by the Ministry of Health. If the Ministry of Health makes a pronouncement, even regarding congregating in certain numbers, then you have to walk within that framework. This is serious enough. This is serious enough to respect what the informed officials put out there and what they prescribe for us. And whether, you can't say on the basis of faith, no, this is, well, they might say that, but I have faith, this and that. No, I don't, I won't ever promote that. Follow what the Ministry of Health prescribes, all right? Safe. It's not only about you, it's about our country. Mm-hmm. All right. So I hope that I have answered you adequately there.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay. And that's it.
We thought that you wanted to speak about something. How was?
Go ahead and ask me.
How was?
Because I want to talk about it, but I want to be asked.
Okay, give us your. Can I use the word report?
Yeah, report on. On the march yesterday, put on by the PSU in conjunction with a number of artists here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I tell you, I don't know if you got to watch because it was on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And you were able to. I thought, to be quite honest with you, I thought that the speeches given by these women were very, very powerful and moving. And, I hope that people, whether they attended the march or not, listen to the women as they give voice to a number of issues. What's her name spoke? Laverne King, Bing's friend, spoke and her. It was a prepared speech, but it was very, very informative. You had Renee speaking more from a cultural and historical level as to the importance. I learned a lot from Renee Batiste. When she talked about Olive's Hotel, Blue Caribbean, what was that Blue building up there? I can't remember what it was called, Vilna Clark Cox. She called a number. I learned about the stature of Joshua, I was about to say Lady Joshua. And I listened to all of these outstanding women in St. Vincent. Renee is always very, very good. So she gave, and then they had psychologists there, Dr. Miller giving a perspective, Mandela, Campbell Peters gave a perspective from a Christian point of view. Zita was also really good. I really commend Zita for bringing a perspective from a legal standpoint, very informative, and I hope that not only something that was done yesterday, but wherever this is recorded, you could have access to the recording on Facebook or wherever, that more and more women should be encouraged to listen, even if you weren't there to stand in the rain yesterday, because it rained, but even if you weren't there to stand in the rain yesterday, if you listen to all of this, you will learn a lot. What was really remarkable to me is the different aspects from which this issue of women in St. Vincent was looked at, religious and cultural and historical and legal, spiritual and psychological. I commend it. I really do.
Okay.
And continue to say that if it's one thing that troubled me yesterday about the march, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, but and I will. So I will be careful with my words because I'm talking off the top of my head, and you know what I think of that. I don't recommend it, but I think that in terms of prioritization of what's happening to women, in the grander scheme of things here in St. Vincent, I know that there are for some people, there are more important things. I know that when you do your prioritization of national or listing of national priorities, that it is not going to be number one, it's not going to be number two, it is not going to be number three. Thing is, when it comes to this, in terms of the solution, mind you, that I'm talking about, I understand, and when I tell you I understand a lot of what it's going to take to prevent this, it's going to take gobs and gobs and gobs of resources and money and investment and long term over a period of time. And in this outcome, you're probably going to save per year 2 lives per year, 3 lives per year, or 4 lives per year. All right? And the question is being asked, it's not being put out there, but the question is being asked, is it worth it to invest? So it's an opportunity cost kind. It's an economic argument. It's an opportunity cost kind of thing. Do you want to invest, let us say, $45-50 million in the social readjustment program? It really is a social program. Do you want to invest $50 million in a social program that will sow some seed that will all go well for 4 or 5 women down the road? Or do you want to use that $50 million in this endeavor or that endeavor? Also, what troubles me too, and I'm going to urge you ladies out there to listen to this carefully, right? Listen to the people talk, and how do you feel? Daniel, I'm going to appeal to you. How do you feel when you hear a pitch as a comparative statistic saying, basically the bottom line is, we're sorry that this is happening, but listen, man, there are other countries where, women are brutalized on a far greater scale and more women are killed and all of that. I know how I feel when I hear that, and I don't like that narrative. I don't like it when it comes from particular places. I better stop there.
What do you mean when you say particular cases or places? What's that? What's that? You know me, I need to get specifics. What exactly are you speaking of?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure what you're speaking of?
Yeah, I'm not sure what I...
You sound as if you want to say something, but you don't want to say it.
No, I'm not sure what I'm saying, so let's leave it there.
Well, Pastor, that's not going to fly here. You know how we operate around here. You said that you're troubled. What's troubling you with regards to yesterday's activity?
Bing, I have not thought to my thoughts. Okay, can we leave it there? I have not thought to my thoughts. I know that there's a narrative. However, let me just say what I can say. I don't like it when I hear people addressing the thing as if it is inevitable, and by comparative analysis, we're not as bad as others.
What thing? What thing you speak of?
When it is, I've heard the same narrative and I've heard the same talk when it came to the matter of just violence in general, whether it was physical assault, physical battery, rapes. The same argument was put out with rape. The comparative analysis. Other countries, you compare to Jamaica, you compare to, and what was that tongue, St. Anne's or whatever it was, you compare to certain tongues in Jamaica, you compare to Trinidad, and you tell us what's happening in other places. And to me, it's as if you are preaching or teaching a sense of accept it, live with it, you can't change it. It is as if you want to, what I want to say here is that there is not, instead of where you would expect an outrage, a real, even an emotional, there's a place for emotional outrage at these incidences that are happening to our women. Where you would expect to hear outrage and a burst of emotion, you are hearing you're not getting the outrage, but you are getting a narrative that pushes even acceptance of it, accept it, and a normalizing of the thing. And I know why. Bing, let me, listen, ladies, listen. Because if people are telling you, if people are in your community leaders, your other leaders, whether it's church leaders or community leaders or business leaders or whatever, wherever they're leading, and they're not really outraged at the thing they're telling you, man, this is going to happen. And in fact, you should count your lucky stars. You really should be counting your lucky stars. There's only 2 or 3 of these women that are killed every year in St. Vincent. You should be really lucky and thankful. When you start hearing that kind of narrative, back up and think and ask yourself, why are they pushing this narrative? Why? Why aren't they outraged? Why aren't they outraged, Bing? Well, not Bing, Daniil. Why aren't they outraged? Why are they saying, why aren't they so outraged as to go over the top in preventive measures? Bing, I could tell you, and I could put on the table, because I've been dealing with this for some time now. I could put on the table a number of routes that we can go in terms of prevention, and every one of them, every one of the substantial ones are going to be costly. And so that is something that you have to consider. The pragmatism of the thing is that, if this being policy, right? You can't implement every single policy you want to implement, because all of them would need resources to generate them, to push them. You have to make hard choices, and you want to implement those that you could get the greatest bang for the buck, frankly speaking. And when you begin to compare, I'm just being pragmatic now, when you begin to compare the bang for the buck in social reengineering and changing social scripting and, the kind of resources that you would need from the get-go in terms of, for example, even identification. We talk about identification of COVID-19. We talk about identification and treatment of ADD, sociopathic maladjustments in children. You're talking about social disorders and psychological issues that you have to identify. You're talking about deploying X amount of counselors to schools to be able to handle all of these things. So and then when you identify, spot these social maladjustments early, then you're putting your nation on a different trajectory. But this is time consuming, and it's going to consume a lot of resources, the same resources that are needed to fix potholes, the same resources that are needed to provide low-income housing, And in those things, you get a greater bang for the buck. And therefore, it is conceivable that it is conceivable that you have to make choices. And, it is conceivable.
Okay, Pastor, we are running out of time, unfortunately. I do want to ask you a few questions on that, but maybe tomorrow.
I want to get out of this conversation so bad you have no idea. So I would be glad.
I don't know why, though. I don't know why.
We'll press you on this tomorrow.
Because I end up saying things.
But why is that a problem? If you got something to say, why not say it? Why you feel that you're offending leaders?
People take what I'm saying wrongly because they think that I'm pointing fingers. I'm not here to point fingers.
But if you're dealing with an issue such as abuse towards women, why do you have to be faithful about what people may think?
So that you're clear. You want to be clear on the issue rather than, because once people think, because we live in a tribal society, and people dismiss you if they think that you are pointing fingers in a particular direction, and that's not my intention. I keep telling people that's not my intention. I actually want to be heard by everybody, but if people think, man, you're pointing finger here, I don't want to hear you, then they don't listen to you. So you have to be very clear that you're just speaking to the issue rather than speaking ad hominem. And so I am not in a position to really clarify my thoughts that way. But my point remains when it comes to policy, which I'm solving the issue of intimate partner violence, domestic violence, abuse of female, all of that. These are deep-seated cultural, societal issues that will have to be guided over a period by long-term policy. So you're talking about policy makers. The purview and basically the ball drops in the court of policymakers. I have I've talked about the multifactorial approach that will include education, that will include law, that will include religion, that will include biological assessment,
Okay, we're out of time,
stuff
Doctor.
like that. I've talked about all of these, but the point is that they are going to demand a significant amount of resources.
Okay, got you. I'm gonna come back at you at this maybe tomorrow.
I will shift out of it.
Have a good day, Pastor.
Have a good day to you. Bye. Diego,
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you very much.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Doing it.
OMG in the morning.